Hey folks, pray to crash here. Here to talk to you about the issue going on over in Cyprus and the impact it might have on the Eurozone and the United States, not the global economy. If any of you have been following the story, and I'm sure most people haven't because it only recently is starting to get traction now on the mainstream media, the Cyprus banks essentially have said that if any amount of money you have in there, they're going to be taxing it, essentially a wealth tax. Anybody who has a certain number of euros in their bank account, 50% of the value will just be taken, whether you want to or not. And even people under 100,000 euros will be hit by, I believe it's a 6.5 to 7% tax under the current proposals. They're just going to take it. And this begs the question, how sacrosanct are our savings accounts? I think most people in the United States, and I'm sure in Europe, feel that the money that you put into a savings account or a bank account is untouchable. It's your money. You're not investing it anywhere, so there shouldn't be any risk. You're certainly not giving it to anybody to lend. You're simply putting it in a place you can go and get it whenever you need it, whether you be purchasing something online, going to an ATM, or going to a bank branch to make a withdrawal. Yet now we're seeing that realistically, when banks are in trouble, or more importantly, when countries are in trouble, they will simply take your money no matter what, even the money that you don't think should be taxed. It's one thing to have income taxes taken out of your check every month. Not that I agree with it, but it's taken out. We know it's there. But to just go in and raid somebody's savings account just because you need the money raises the question, is any of the money you own really yours? Do you have any rights to your money at all? Now, most people would say, of course, it's my money, I earned it. Well, then explain to me what happened in Cyprus. Begs the question, what does this test in Cyprus mean for the rest of the Eurozone? Well, realistically, what would it mean to you? If you're living in, say, Texas, and all of a sudden you hear the next door in New Mexico, they just raided all the banks, and everyone with a savings account was levied with a 10% fee. What would you do? Well, what I do, I'd probably head over to my bank and withdraw almost all my money out of my savings account. It's in a savings account. I'm not expecting to make much interest on it. So I want to keep it under my bed to make sure that no one touches it. Now, you say, well, what would happen if everyone does that? It's a run on a bank, which is also why the Cyprus banks have closed until Thursday to let them go through all of this pooling of money, pulling it out, taking it and putting it together for whatever they plan to spend it on, the wealth tax, as they keep saying it is. And then people are left helpless. They can't access their money. They can't go to the banks to make withdrawals. The money is just stolen from them in the night. Now, this would cause, in most countries, a run on the banks. And the problem is, even worse than that. Now, realistically, in the banking system, only a certain percentage of money is actually cash. Most of it is investments, derivatives. We know the whole story. But realistically, say only 3% of money in banks is savings account money, cash that can be withdrawn. Take 3%, everything a bank owns throughout the Eurozone, it's a significant amount of money. It's dangerous. Pulling that amount of money out of a bank, essentially ruining its liquidity, would really cause some of these too big to fail banks to potentially fail, which then, of course, causes a domino effect where all the other countries in that area, if not the world, would see the effect. People don't realize in this country, especially those that aren't very informed, that anything that happens over in Europe affects us directly. It may not be the same day, but over the next couple of days, whenever the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, the S&P start to have variances in how they're trading, most of it is the ripples coming from Europe. And if you don't think that a bank run in the Eurozone would cause any kind of turmoil in the United States, you're foolish. But at the same point, too, a lot of our illustrious leaders that take a lot of their inspiration from the European model might find that this is something that they should take a look at. If Europe will start pulling money out of people's bank accounts in the middle of the night without them asking, who's to say they couldn't start doing that here? So I beg you, be informed, take a look at what's happening in Cyprus. It's essentially a beta test for the rest of the Eurozone. If you don't think a bunch of essentially pseudo-socialists over in the Eurozone would have considered doing the exact same thing in Italy, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, countries that are essentially bankrupt, that are so far in the red that there's no way they can dig themselves out. This could be one of the ways they think they could use to get out. But realistically, there's no possible way, because they're so far in debt that the people alone, all their savings couldn't pay for anything. But don't think they won't try. And don't think that over time, that type of interpretation of what you can do with bank accounts could migrate its way over here. And that's dangerous. But anyway, just food for thought. Have a good night.